Well, hello, 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 and welcome back from the new house. Oh, let's get the mic over here so the mic can kind of pick up my voice a little bit. Oh, hey, Duncan, did you join in already? Well, hi, Duncan. Good to see you again. I'm gonna go ahead and get the chat up here. Oh, it's been so long. I feel out of sorts. Let's see what we can do. Oh yeah, we're gonna put the chat right up here. There we go. All right, so now I've got an eye on the chat as well. Okie dokie day. Cool. So I think everything's up and running. I've got this thing right here. This is what I'm doing right now as I'm figuring this out. Let me go find, uh, pardon me, it's morning. It's way early morning and I've not had my juice yet. So let's have a quick word from our not a sponsor, Mr. Mountain Dew. Pop a top, my friends. Let's open focus. We're awakeness. We're caffeinated orange juice. Today is going to be an all right day. We're going to survive. I can tell now. Oh, let's see. First comment. Nice. You got a whole new house, painted it exactly the same color as the old one, and put all the stuff back exactly as it was before. Yeah, more or less. That was the goal. Yep. Except that it's not paint, you fool. I think you knew that, but in case you didn't know that, it's not paint, it's light. But I think you knew that, right? Anyway, okay. Let's see. Mm. And it's not exactly the way that it was before. There's a new addition here, this mushroom, and there's also I think the license plate was right here. That's gone right now, or something was right there, or maybe that was down there. I don't know. I got to go check the other video and see because I didn't take a picture, but I'll get it back to. Well, I don't know. I'll leave it whatever it is. Anyway, so today I'm probably going to be working on this project to implement HTTPS for the Dash API. And I'm the person who wrote Let's Encrypt, the Let's Encrypt client for Node.js. So if you use Let's Encrypt with Node.js, there's a good chance that you use the Acme.js module or the Greenlock module, which is what I wrote. They actually got a trademark on Let's Encrypt, but it was after I had already named my module Let's Encrypt, but I renamed it to Greenlock. Anyway, so motivation, master nodes. Let's call those service nodes. There's so many things that we just get a vote on and get it through. Should have TLS certs installed to facilitate smooth communications with browsers over HTTPS. Agreed. The certs will be issued against the IP address of the master node and not a domain name. So this is absolutely butt wrong. So let me explain this because I think somebody from the Dash community may watch this. So IP addresses are a much more centralized system than domain names. So if you want to be censorship resistant, you should absolutely not be limiting yourself to only being able to rely on IP addresses. You want to be able to rely on domain names because that allows you to switch between IP addresses, and you can purchase IP addresses from different providers. Different providers will block you differently, but at its root, IP addresses are owned by one organization, whereas domain names are actually owned by different organizations. So both have their pros and cons, but you want to use them in tandem, not say exclusively, we only support IP addresses. That's just a flat out bad idea. Yeah. Especially if you're talking about a system like Dash that's supposed to be distributed, you don't want to be tied to a single provider's IP address. You can't purchase an IP address and take it with you. So, if you have to move or you have to switch providers for some reason, You want that option, and there are some. Anyway, just this I am strongly against the idea. I'm pro the idea that IP addresses should be supported, but I'm strongly against the idea that you should use them, except in really weird circumstances. IP address system is just not a great system for this sort of thing. Now, IPv6 in particular would be really interesting to see how that plays out. The hideous purple color isn't paint. That's correct. The hideous purple color is completely adjustable. We could have hideous orange if we wanted to. Here, let me show you real quick. Let's see. It's is it this one? This one. This one. This one is the one that you're actually see. And it doesn't look this way in real life. When it's picked up by the camera, it gets much more saturated. But let's see here. 268. See, look. We can go through the whole rainbow. Ooh. Oh, that hideous green really hits the spot. I was keen on the hideous orange for a while. But for all it's said and done, hideous purple is really my color. See, that was not so bad. Kind of pinkish. There we go. So now we went through the whole color wheel. You're welcome. Hey, what's up, Wucha? How you doing? Okay. Which limits automate? Oh yeah, here's another thing. Zero SSL API. So we'd also want to, for any system that you're going to use, you want to be able to use it in a decentralized fashion, right? So you want to be able to have the option of switching from one provider to another. You don't want to be locked in. So I believe that the Zero SSL API allows IP addresses, but then if you're saying you're only going to allow IP addresses, then you're limiting yourself to the Zero SSL API. And there are other, I think there's at this point maybe 4 other providers for Let's Encrypt. And so you don't want to limit yourself to the number of providers that you can have. You want to, hold on just one second. I'm going to move this under the monitor like that. Okay, and then bring it out this way like this, maybe. The new position of the mic is not quite right. It's a little too far from me. I'll have to sort that out. Oh, you know what I might do? I might move it over here. I think, yeah, I could do that, no problem. Anyway, that's tangential. So we don't want to limit ourselves just to Zero SSL. We want to be able to use Let's Encrypt. We want to be able to use Zero SSL. We want to be able to use other providers, which, again, if you're limiting it to IP addresses, you're limiting it to one provider, which means that when Zero SSL goes woke, then or your IP address provider goes woke, you just want to be woke resistant, or what do we call it? Censorship resistant. Yeah. Let's see, prior work, incubator tracking card. Let me go check this out. DCG tracking card. Okay. Mostly completed implementation for Zero SSL. That's interesting. They might have written their own rather than using the one that I created, which is fine. There's a lot of stuff you need to do. Mostly completed. We'll see what this means, because when you think about mostly completed, you're about 20% of the way there, because with Let's Encrypt, because there's all this stuff that you have to handle for, well, renewal, most importantly, which I guess if you're just doing it file based, you maybe a really naive implementation could work. If you just stick to file based and you're only worried about one computer, yeah, okay. Prior research spec might not be accessible, but irrelevant. Okay, I don't. So these ones are irrelevant. I should put these further away. I don't want to answer questions. I just want to get there. Okay, can't do it. Update the browser. Oh no, I'm not doing it. I'm gonna leave that browser not updated. Okay. Dashmate commands to install certificates, obtain and renew. I don't think that should be necessary. Oh, yeah. So one of my suggestions for this is actually just use Caddy, not try to implement it into Node, unless you're going to do really complex stuff. Um, because it's better to have a simple, lightweight, automatic utility. Because if you want to do it all manually, there's a lot of tools for that already, which I think we want to avoid manually. We want it to just work. Okay, associated changes, migrations, JSON config schema, store config. Okay, so that would be interesting. Obtain should run by default during Dashmate setup and ask minimum questions. 0 SSL API key. I didn't know that they had an API key. Think on that one. I don't think they have an API key. Renew should run automatically before the certificate expires, possibly triggered through a helper container or some other mechanism. Command architecture should abstract the certificate provider so it's possible to use 0SSL or self-provided certificate, making it easy to add support for more CAs in the future. Yeah. So I think that Caddy might be the right way to go with this rather than building a custom integration, because it's going to be quick and easy and it's already well documented. And if not Caddy, then Greenlock, because yeah, you don't want to. This might be the kind of thing where you don't want to build a custom API. Oh, and we're going to turn on the chat timers. I just did that over here in the chat. Okay, let me go back. All right, my task is to review the short document, follow the links are accessible, read them, follow links, try to understand the overall problem we're trying to solve, write a document with feedback and recommendations. Okay, so let's go ahead and get the document started. I'll get it started on Bliss, and then we'll go from there. So let me sign in, make sure it's all synced and up to date and all that. All right, and then I'm gonna do, these are dash DAPI HTTPS notes, and then I'll copy this over to GitHub later. My thoughts on, oops. The HTTPS for DAPI spec. Let's read this. Okay, one, primary use should be domain names, stay more decentralized, not less. Two, and this is one of those things where duckdns dash.io you know what we need? We need a tool that is essentially duckdns that's open source, so you could run on any domain pretty easily. What? I see you say what, but what did you say what about? That was just a minute ago. So yeah, explain what the what is, and then I will answer it. Okay. Did you try P5JS? I don't know what that is. I don't think I'd like it. Graphic interactive experiences based on the core principles of processing. Oh. Okay. I've never used processing, the tool. Interesting. Photos making code accessible include artists, designers, educators. Okay, well, that actually could be cool, but it's not geared towards me. I'm not the right target audience for it, I don't think. All right. So we got some, free domain names. I think people should buy their own domains, but then we need a dash domain service as well, right? So, and ultimately, we need a TLD that's censorship resistant. Okay, so that's the first one. Number two is just use Caddy. Let's see. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think, yeah, it should be possible to not have to use Caddy as well if you're already running some other stuff on this server and you already have a web server that you want to use and you don't want to. I mean, the reason people don't use Caddy is just because they're used to having more complex configuration. It's one of those things. I hesitate to say it, but Mac versus Windows, right? Mac is zero config, it just works. You could just, you just get up and go, right? But people aren't used to that with a web server. They're not used to a web server that just works. Just like most people aren't used to a computer that just works. And so, you know, when I see people use Windows, the people that use Windows start using Mac, they're so confused because they're looking for these options to be deeply nested or for things to be really complex. They're thinking that they have to figure it out and that they have to, learn it all, and they don't realize that yes, the three screen tutorial that you went through when you set up your Mac, that literally is, the stuff you need to know. That's it. And kind of the same thing with Caddy. There's, you know, it's just a two-line config. You don't need to have the 15 million options. It's actually not complicated. I think it's why it's gaining so much adoption in the industry, but it's also why a lot of people are hesitant, is that they're used to things being complex, and when something's just simple and it just works, and there's not, you don't have to go through all the configuration. Sometimes people get confused. Okay. Task outputs. Yeah. All right. So we looked at that. Yeah, we definitely want to prevent man in the middle attacks. And it's really important. One thing that isn't mentioned in the spec here, but that needs to be talked about, is Caa records. Well, I guess if you're not using a domain, then you don't have that, which actually is another detriment. If you only use IP addresses, then you cannot supply a Caa record, which means that you are losing out on security. So I'm going to put that here. Because the way that the TLS system is set up is that you have your browser ships with every certificate authority. And so from time to time, certificate authorities have gone rogue or been hacked, and then they get removed because they're not abiding by the minimum requirements. One of the big ones got removed. I don't remember which one it was, but one of the big ones got a heavy fine or got removed or something because basically they had no security in their system, and it was easy for people to just get in and forge certificates and whatever, and it was a big deal. And if you think about, for example, in China, um, if uh, I don't. Just when you're at high levels, if you want to issue fake certificates, say the CIA or the KGB or the whatever it is wants to issue fake certificates and they have an in with the certificate provider, then they can issue fake certificates because the chain of authority is not peer to peer. The Caa records, certificate authority, whatever it is, they make it so that the browser will obey the authorities that you trust, not the authority, not just any authority. So if you with IP based HTTPS, you cannot have Caa records, which means that it's easier to spoof the certificate. So ideally, you want now DuckDNS does not provide the ability to do Caa records, but ideally, you want to be using a domain provider that has the Caa record capability, so that you are protected. Okay, so that note out of the way here. Let's see. Create a spec. Dip GDoc? I don't know what this means. Oh, dash improvement program. Uh-oh. You see a word like whilst. Does that fit with Project Rocket? Yes, actually. Yeah, so let me just get to, I forget. Let's see, do I have it right here? Yeah. So we look at the issues. I have some stuff here. These are APIs that we want to support. And I put in the list whether Caa is available or not for the ones that I've been looking at. So DigitalOcean supports Caa. Name.com does not, which is really bad. Oh, bless me. But Name.com supports ANAME, and GoDaddy does not support that. Does DigitalOcean support ANAME? I don't think it does. It'd be nice to find a provider that supports ANAME and Caa. I think Cloudflare might. But yeah, so codename Project Rocket, also codename WebDNS, is a project that I have made very little progress on. That other people keep on telling me, "Oh yeah, I'm really interested. I'm going to help with that," and then they never do. But it's basically to do a libDNS like what Caddy has, but for the web, so that it's controlled through OAuth, so that an application, you could sign up for an application and say, I'd like to use my domain, click a button, and have it pop up and say, such and such application would like to use your domain, select the domains you want it to be able to control, or subdomains or whatever, and the record types you'd like it to be able to control, and then, you're off. Anyway, let's see. Let's see. Yep, I agree with this. We want things to be HTTPS accessible. Where did the master Caa list go? I need to take a look at that. I used to have a module in Node that would get you the most up-to-date master Caa list. It was based on somebody else's work for the most of it. But Mozilla stopped hosting it about a year ago. Yeah, see, I think this person's work is probably the same. So they've got it in Ruby. Let's see, when was this updated? Was this updated recently? 2020? Yeah, so I think since 2020 it's been taken down. I don't know where that master list is anymore. It needs to be somewhere public, but I don't know what happened to it. It's kind of important that it's public, All right. I wonder why there's a W there. That's weird. Anyway. Yeah, so we want the service nodes to potentially offer more than just the money exchange service, the instant send service, but possibly other services as well. Mhm. By the way, I saw there was a few people that joined in. Hello, welcome. I'm just looking at a spec right now, so it's not too interesting. I'm not into the code yet. All right. So we definitely need to be supporting IPv6. Yeah, this is good. Yeah, so this is bunk right here. And Ryan and I, we need to do some sort of chat about how the host name and the IP and all these systems work, because it seems to be a misconception that IP addresses are more decentralized when, as I explained earlier, they're less decentralized as a basis. They're less secure as well. What in the world is all that? Somebody try to type in here in a Latin encoding character set in Russian, and then it popped out all this extra stuff. Somebody's cat got on the keyboard, maybe. Yeah, but we need to support IPv6. I'm not sure what all needs to be done for that, but IPv4 addresses are exhausted. There's only 4 billion of them. They are 100% bought. You can still sublet them or sublease them through Amazon and DigitalOcean and Google and Azure and all that. But and if you're in the United States, you probably get an IP address via your ISP. But I know, well, I've heard a lot of places in Europe you don't get an IP address when you connect to your ISP, or not. You don't get a public IP address. You get a internal IP address for that ISP that is then natted. So you have no possibility to do real peer-to-peer if you're on one of the internet service providers that are like that. Okay. I wonder what the gRPC is for. Okay. All right. Following data would be required, yeah. So what DAPI is has not been sufficiently explained yet, but it is I think it's to for services such as file storage and identity and stuff like that. All right. What we need is a new name that's not IPv4, not IPv6, and not DNS. We need a new name that just encompasses the best of the existing technology. We just need a new name for it, because one of the problems is once people hear something, they can't unhear it. So once people have this false belief that IP addresses are more decentralized or more secure or more private or something like that, when they're obviously less decentralized and less secure, it's hard to go against that. It's hard to go against what people already believe. Um, yeah, I doubt there's nothing. It'd be interesting to see what other Let's Encrypt providers there are. Maybe we could check the Let's Encrypt blog. What other? It's called ACME, Automated Certificate for Automated Certificate Management Environment. I think it's kind of dumb that they call it ACME, but because it's a joke, but it's not a joke that's easy to Google. The I'm a teapot joke, that's easy to Google. So or the enhance your calm. So these are jokes that are easy to Google. But Acme is not. Yeah, it's already related so many things. It's kind of a bad joke. I'm not really sure what Dashmate. Well, I think I encountered Dashmate. Hmm. All right. Okay, I don't think I need to read too much more of this. I'm in Bootstrap. Okay, maybe I do need to read this. Yeah, so I would say this is perhaps problematic. Um, why would you be using an old web server like Nginx that doesn't have native support for the security feature? This is another reason for Caddy too. Is Caddy uses the latest protocols, the latest security features. It is the modern web server. It is the web server that has support for HTTP2, HTTP3, for the different configurations of Let's Encrypt. Um, it is, if you're interested in some sort of Web 3-ish project, then Caddy would be the obvious choice because it's the one that supports the protocols that you'd want. So for example, HTTP3 would be something that now that one's still nascent, but you might want that. Yeah, Caddy. Hey, what's up, D-Larn? How you doing, man? Good to see you again. It's been a while. I guess this time it's been a while because of me. Because I've been gone. Oh no, you don't put Axios and fetch, one or the other. Let's see why this is. Okay, obtain. What is all this? Oh no. Oh, is this execing out or something? Hmm. Oh no. I hate this stuff. This whole idea of doing one function per file is just ridiculous. Sorry, Strophe. And then having, you got one function per file and you're wrapping in a class, this extent, just keep it simple. And I talk about this all the time, but, you know. Yeah. Let me get this in the wide view here. But then again, I mean, yeah, I can't fault anybody, certainly anybody who doesn't use JavaScript as their primary language, because they're not going to take the time to learn JavaScript idioms, and that's how most of the documentation is in the world that's out there. Most of the documentation is not written by people who understand JavaScript well, and so it's just this propagation of non-JavaScript JavaScript. So, here again, you got a try catch where it should be await dot catch. So you could do, yeah, whatever. But that doesn't matter. That's all down at the bottom. What's up, AZ? It's fun because now I've got a soundboard, huh? Well. We do what we must because we can. Let's see. What I'm not clear on is what is it actually calling? Okay. Where is what is it? What is it execing? Oh, interesting. So is this to say that 0SSL has, oh, this might be a problem. This might actually be a problem. Well, it says this was closed. So I should check out why this was closed actually. I didn't notice it said closed, not merged. Let me go check the comments here. Okay. Well, so we've got a potential problem here because it looks like this is not using this okay, so this is not using the Let's Encrypt standard. This is using the proprietary 0SSL API. So this is not going to work with any other provider because apparently, and I don't blame them for this, certainly if you want to get more market share, this isn't a bad way to do it. But 0SSL is creating a separate way to do certificate management that is not part of the standard at all in any way, shape, or form. And so you can use their, granted, much simplified API. Again, all of this, just all this ceremony in JavaScript, it just doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't. This should be one file, not one function per file. Let me be able to see in context what needs to be done in order for this process to be complete. I shouldn't have to go through, I think it's literally about 10 different files that have to be gone through. Actually, I think it's more than that. Just to figure out, how to follow a process from one step to the next. This just does not make sense. It certainly doesn't make sense to have both Axios and Fetch. Pick one or pick the other. Probably Fetch, since that one is standardized. And that one's going to make it into Node proper. Anyway. Okay. All this abstraction. All right, set up a temp server. Yeah. So, and you don't, this is another reason for using DNS. Your process can be a lot simpler. You can use private IP addresses. Why doesn't any of this work? Interesting. Oh, okay, because there's a Docker pull or something. Oh, and just a little reminder, if you like what you like, you have more of what you like. And I think everybody's watching right now. But if it's all the same people who have been commenting, y'all are already in the Discord. But if anybody here is new and you want to join in on the Discord, feel free to do so. All right. Why is it doing this? Why is it reduplicating my comment? I'm going to block myself. I blocked myself so that my comments don't bounce back at me. I think what it is, I think I don't know actually. I don't know why when the bot makes a comment, it then shows me making the comment as well. But I just blocked myself. Okay. So I get the basis of what's going on here. And yeah, this is probably a lot simpler in many ways. Let's see. Yeah. Yeah, okay. OpenSSL. So I wrote key pairs in order to be able to do this type of stuff directly in JavaScript. It will be often a little bit faster to do it now. No, it should be about the same now because most of the stuff is implemented natively and Node doesn't require polyfills anymore. Polyfills. But anyway, this is the common way to do it. Is just shell out to OpenSSL. But then, well, the problem I had with that is just and this doesn't matter, I guess, because this is only ever going to run on Linux. But if you want something that will run on Mac and Windows as well, then execing out to OpenSSL might not be what you want to do. But for this, where it's constrained to this is only ever going to live in a Linux environment that's already set up ahead of time. Although I kind of would prefer it not have to rely on that. Okay, anyway, I don't think there's too much more for me to do here. Just kind of looking through. Okay. Oh, did they added HTTP2 support? That's good. All right, so I've gone through that one. That's, I think, is an interesting one to look at. I don't think there's too much more here. I'm just going to scroll down and see what we got. All right. Okay, and then what's the other thing? So I looked at this one, looked at that one, this one. All right. I think here we're going to find out what DAPI actually is, maybe. I don't understand why people want to use gRPC. I think this is the Google RPC. I know that people use it, but I don't understand why. I think it's an alternative to JSON. It's basically binary JSON, if I'm not mistaken. I think lots of Go projects use it. I'm just kind of curious to see what does it look like. Yeah, I don't. It seems like if you're building a custom TCP protocol or something, if for some reason you don't want to use HTTP, which I guess there are some situations where the way that HTTP works maybe isn't desirable, it seems that overhead should be okay. We need better stream descriptions. Well, I don't know what the stream description is going to be until I'm in the middle of the stream. You know what I'm saying? But tell me more. What is it that you would like? Because for this one, this description should have been, if I just go on Twitter here, let me just find this real quick. And you'll have to tell me if whatever platform you're on, you are on YouTube. If it didn't give you the right description. Because if it didn't, then I need to investigate that. But this is what you should have seen. Reading the spec, HTTPS for IPs. That's all I knew. I don't know much about this project yet. This is my first look at the spec. So that is, if that wasn't the description you saw, let me know where you saw it and how. But yeah, I don't know what this thing is going to be until I hear it. And hello, everybody. Welcome. I'm surprised so many people are, well, I guess I shouldn't be surprised so many people are joining in the morning, because most people are not up at 2 a.m. and I'm usually not up before 8. Okay. I don't know why we want RPC. This seems like a bad idea. Yeah. I'm guessing it's because there's some system level people that prefer RPC because that's what they're familiar with in TCP. But if you're going to be doing web-based APIs, RPC is not the way to go. It flies in the face of the design of HTTP. HTTP is meant to be stateless. Now, maybe I'm mistaken about that, because maybe there's some functions where RPC does make sense, but I would not recommend using. I don't like the idea of RPC. You're creating a faux programming language as a wire protocol. I think that's a bad idea. Just the semantics of it, because really it's the same. Whether you're using REST or you're using RPC, it's the same, but REST is communicating more. Here's data that I'm going to give, and here's data I expect to get back. Whereas RPC is feels more like a pseudo programming language over a wire protocol. They accomplish the same result, but I think that HTTP is easier to document. And unless you have the very specific need for, I don't know, HTTP already handles authentication. HTTP already handles there's so many specs available, and some of them are quite good. Okay, all right. Oh, I think I read this one before. I'd like to read this again. Delegated credentials for TLS. That's interesting. I think I read this one once. Maybe as part of this project a year or two back when I didn't have time or interest to take this on. I did kind of a consult, but I wasn't interested enough to really dig into it. And I think I might have been given this at that time, but I'm pretty sure I've read this one before because that was interesting. I don't remember what it was, but I remember it was interesting. Anyway, okay, let me catch up on comments here. What do you use on your infra? I don't. The word infra to me means make it unnecessarily complicated, and I just don't like to make things, in my view, unnecessarily complicated. But for the literal answer, DigitalOcean. I use DigitalOcean because it's simple, it's reliable. You don't have to worry about the types of things that you have to worry about with other sorry cloud providers. So, for example, occasionally I get an email from DigitalOcean that says there was a problem with the physical hardware associated with your droplet. We will perform an automatic migration. I have never had that not work. Never. All virtual servers will go down eventually because they will get transitioned from one piece of hardware to another piece of hardware. DigitalOcean does everything automatically. The virtual machine state is transferred over from the one instance to the other instance with virtually zero downtime. It's something in the realm of a few seconds of downtime, where the network connections are paused. So if someone's in the middle of a web request, it'll pause for a few seconds, move the virtual machine, and then resume it, and that request will resume. So it's not that it shuts down and restarts. If there is a hardware level failure on your virtual private server, it will migrate automatically. So I like that. Okay. Isn't RPC more performant? Maybe. Define more performant. So with almost every technology, you always have to define what the bounds and the context of your usage of the technology are in order to determine if it's more performant. There could be situations in which gRPC implemented correctly is more performant than REST. There could also be implementations where REST is more performant than gRPC. So, and it depends on things like message size as well, because once you get into basically the realm of what a TCP packet is, and there's certain amount of overhead where you have to, are you talking about just clock cycle performance or performance of how, well, I guess this isn't really the typical definition of performance, but the users have to use the product. By the way, hello to those of you joining in. I'm AJ O'Neill, and we're talking about a spec for the dashed digital cache. The service nodes are implementing more APIs than just the transaction handling, and so we're talking about how to get HTTPS as part of that upcoming Dash API, and currently just talking about some RPC versus REST. So yeah, RPC, sure, it could be more performant, but along what metric? Is it along the happy path? Is it Is it performant in a way that matters? Probably not usually. If you were Google and you really need to eke out, every little tiny itsy bitsy bit helps, and you are doing things that are, you literally are building a distributed network with where your programming language is a TCP wire protocol, which I think is what gRPC is built for, then yeah, you might want to not do HTTP, and you might want to just implement your own special protocol. If it's typically server to server communication, it's not meant to be necessarily user friendly. It's meant to be in a contained ecosystem. Well, I guess, the part of the idea is gRPC is that it's standardized and whatnot. But again, I just think, yeah, there's so much low hanging fruit if you need performance. Using a more complex protocol that's difficult to understand and difficult to document is not necessarily going to help you with that low hanging fruit of just poor architecture choices and whatnot. Do you think that full stack developer is a myth or real? I've talked about this before. Full stack developer is absolutely a myth. There is such thing in the same way that there are cooks who are also professional. There are professional chefs who are also professional motorbike. So there's, what's the word I'm looking for, when they jump over the ramps and stuff and do racing. Professional, not cyclist, but motorcyclist, I guess. Anyway, yeah, in the same way that there's people who are excellent at playing guitar who are also professional athletes, or the same way that there are people who are programmers who are also excellent at painting. Yes, there are people who are both front end and back end, but it's a coincidence in the same way that all of those other unrelated things are coincidence. That there's just a huge difference in mentality between front end and back end. And if your brain works one way, if your brain works the CSS way, if CSS makes sense to you, then I don't see how you're going to be any good with servers. I just, that because it's a different way of thinking, right? And if your brain is very logical and oriented around programming, you're probably not going to be very good at front end stuff. And that is part of the reason that front end frameworks suck so much, is that they are going to be used for some reason in the industry, rather than having programmers work on programming and non-programmers work on the not programming. We try to shove everything together because front end is really two different technologies. It's the front end bits that are classically front end, and then it's the programming as well, right? And so a back end programmer is going to be a front end programmer on the programming side better than most front end programmers are going to be, right? But it's because the programming part, the logic part, is the same whether it's front end or back end. But it's all the other bits, particularly dealing with the CSS and layout, and that whole pattern of thinking is just orthogonal to engineering. And so typically, I think typically people that are front end people are just not going to, people that are primarily, their primary job is to translate pictures through CSS are not natively going to have as good of a grasp on event handling and the programming side of the front end, which is why every front end sucks. I mean, you just visit any website and click a couple of buttons, right? Nothing works anymore. You copy and paste is even broken. Okay. Daredevil. Yes. Professional daredevil. That's a good way to put it. Okay. How do you deal with most jobs looking for full stack? So basically that's a cry for help. That means that I'm imagining most of the time it's going to be a smaller company and they don't know what they're looking for. So anytime there's an explosion of stuff on a resume, or not a resume, on a job listing, you have to know Photoshop and SQL. And anytime you start to see confluences like that, where looking for full stack people that know Photoshop and SQL or whatever, just go in there and apply, because it's a cry for help. What they're saying is, we have no idea what we're doing. We're in too deep. We just need somebody to steer us in the right direction. And so if you can get those jobs that are looking for full stack developers, you can probably get pretty easily, because they are strained on resources. They are trying to hire one person to do 10 jobs rather than 10 people to do 10 jobs. So I think that's pretty darn true. When you see skill sets that are unrelated being requested, you don't need all those skill sets. They just need help. So go apply. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and another thing that you don't want to do, unless you're applying to one of those types of places, I would say you do not want to put a smattering of a million things on your resume. You want to limit your resume to as few things as possible. And my resume is actually really bad about this, because I have too much stuff on there and I need to trim it and make it nice and follow my own advice. But usually I get work through contract stuff, not through, or there's something, it's a blog article or something, or a reference. I haven't ever had to rely on my resume to get a job, I don't think. Resume is just a formal part of the process. But anyway, yeah, less is definitely more in terms of your resume, because most times when you're applying to a job, what you want to show is that you have a specific skill set. And if you put everything on there, Microsoft Word, Photoshop, SQL, then you are going to look like you really don't know anything, because how much of an expert do you have to be able to type a Word document, right? If you're going to put that up against SQL, how much of an expert do you have to be to do your joins properly and make sure everything's indexed? You know what I'm saying? So, oh, that's me. Anyway, let me move on with this. Okay, let me check again. Let me close out all of these things. And let's go back to these and just open them up again and again. Make sure I've looked at all of these. So I can't get into this one. I've looked at this one, and this is the one that I was just looking at. Task acquisition, research tasks. Yeah. Okay, cool. So, yeah, you're welcome. Let's see. I'm going to dash hive here. And DAPI spec review. And let's go ahead and make this private. I'm going to add a README. What is it? MIT, I think, is what they want. I say they instead of we because mental distance. The MIT license. That's another discussion again, but MIT license is not, it's not a license that you should be using unless you know why you're using it, because it just traps. The Mozilla public license is, in my opinion, and perhaps objectively, I think objectively, well, I should just say my opinion, I guess. No, if you want to do something open source and you're not sure where it's going to go or what it's going to turn into, you should use the MPL, the Mozilla public license. If you use MIT, you are giving away too many of your rights, then you might find, because basically you're saying it's fine for people to rip you off, whereas the MPL, there's more structure around it in terms of, yes, it's open source, but you are the owner. It is your project type of thing. Anyway, so let me see. What should I say here? Read those, follow relevant links, try to understand the problem we're trying to solve, write a document, feedback and recommendations. So, yeah, I should say, I'm just going to copy this over my little draft here and then start. Well, maybe I should just because this auto saves. Let's go to this. So we have, whoops, this one. I'm going to go ahead and say re. And then research for DAPI. Okay. And then I'm going to put the other one as well. So decentralized TLS HTTPS for DAPI. And just all this stuff here, just so it's front and center for people to look at who are reviewing this. Okay. There's one more resource that I have here, right? So I've got this one. Oh, and I've got this pull request. Oh, whoops. No, I want this one. There we go. Cool. So I'm going to grab all this. Bloop, bloop. All right. My primary concern with the HTTPS for DAPI spec as it stands, my primary concerns are the fundamental misunderstanding. That's just my primary concern with the HTTPS for DAPI spec is the fundamental misunderstanding of the benefits and detriments of IP-based systems and with regard to, can I just do that? Is WRT understood well? Can I just put, how do you write WRT? I want to be cool. I don't want to type the whole thing out. Like that with regard to decentralization and security. Let's see. The IPv4 address space is already completely sold out as of IPv4 sold out. Let's see. A few years ago. All right, here it is. This was in 2018. All right. Availability. IPv6 space is still available. and should be used in tandem with IPv4 wherever possible. Infinitely infinitely available. There we go. Okay, decentralization. IP addresses are more centralized than domain names. Therefore, it makes more sense. You can, let's see. Domain names can be transferred between providers. Different TLDs have some TLDs are more censorship resistant than others. Let's see, .com versus .io versus .gop. I was GOP there because it is one of the more censorship resistant ones. It is actually not owned by. So GOP stands for Grand Old Party. It is a political domain, but it is declared in its charter, because each TLD basically has a charter. And GOP is one of the few that in its charter say basically do whatever you want. It doesn't have restrictions. It explicitly says that it's open to, if I remember correctly, essentially controversial topics. Okay. So, most people are not going to want a GOP TLD because they think they're going to, if you look at it, you think, oh, well, I'm not associated with those dirty Republicans. But the thing is, if you are looking for censorship resistant, regardless of who, you may not like the organization that owns it, but the organization that owns it doesn't mind if they don't like you, which is important. Or at least that's what it says in the charter, right? I don't know that this has been put to the test, but I think that if GOP became popular because of its censorship resistance and its how liberal the policies are in the classical definition of the word liberal, then they would. I don't think they would be upset. I think as of right now, they only get about 2,000 registrations a year. So I'm sure that they would be happy to have more registrations because they're losing money on their TLD as it stands right now. If I did the quick math correctly on that one. But anyway, .com. I don't know where the charter for .com is. I haven't read the charter for .com, but basically because it's grandfathered through so many, it's no longer owned by a single organization, and its policies are more liberal because it, in the classical sense of the word liberal, because the grandfathering process. So many people already have .coms. To have a charter that is exclusionary is not good. Anyway, let's see. All right. All right, security. I'm not good at writing documents. That's not my forte, especially things that people are supposed to read. I mean, I can have the discussion, but I'm not a good technical writer for, well, if you want me to describe an API, I am happy to do that. If you want me to convey a bunch of ideas where I don't know what the level of understanding of the person that's reading it is or what they want to know, It's just very confusing to me. I spin my wheels on it a lot. I really need somebody else who knows the audience, to just pry the information out of me and put it in the format that they want. I am not the right person to write these types of documents because it's there's too many variables. I can't constrain it. I don't know what's wanted or what's being asked for or what's good or what's bad or what language to use or what format it's one of those things where I'm going to say this in a very literal sense, at least as literal as I understand it. Yeah, I have an autistic moment when faced with this type of task. It's overload, sensory overload in terms of in my brain of I don't know, 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 I can't. I really do struggle with understanding people and interacting with people. And that's always been a struggle for me. It's always been something that's really hard. I believe that it's actually attributed to ADHD. A lot of people have thought that I have Asperger's, but I've done the self-assessment on that, and I'm pretty sure that I fail, unfortunately, because everybody gets their own, the victimhood status, and I really wanted mine, but it unfortunately that's not how I'm going to get it, because I was really hoping to have an excuse for why I'm so bad with people and so stupid with social interaction and whatnot. But a lot of the symptoms for Asperger's and ADHD overlap, and they're often cross-diagnosed. So it is probably the executive function disorder, the inattentiveness to small details about social interactions, that is why I have such a problem with that. Not, I'm not actually autistic, which, I mean, not that I necessarily, well, if I am what I am, it just becomes a label. I am whatever I am. I think the way that I think. I see things the way that I see them. But anyway, this type of document it's my anxiety levels maybe a 2 out of 10 right now, because I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the consequences of doing this wrong are, but maybe a 3 out of 10. But it's just, I don't know. I can explain whatever. You ask me questions, I will explain the information to you. You put it in the format that you want. But I'm going to do my best here. Okay, security. IP addresses, certificates for IP addresses can be spoofed by any certificate authority. Domain names are protected by Caa records. Can be protected by Caa records, which limit spoofing, which practically eliminate the ability to spoof certificates in browsers and some API clients. So I think curl now checks Caa records. If you're just using node fetch, it would be really great. Actually, let's take a look at that real quick. Let's look at fetch. No, because it's the browser. So let's look at node fetch Caa. Let's see what we get. Client-side SSL. Let's try Node.js. Do we have Caa support here? Hopefully we do. Caa. Resolve Caa. Good. Okay, cool. So it wouldn't be, at least in Node, it wouldn't be difficult to implement this check. Go obviously has it because Let's Encrypt was developed in Go. Yeah. So not a lot of information out there. But I doubt that Fetch supports it out of the box. It should, but I doubt that it does. Now let's go look at Node.js on GitHub and see what we find real quick. All right, CAA. DNS feature requiring CA support. System has working. Add support for resolving CA records. DNS tests. So. DNS sec support. What's this? Okay. I think what this is saying, can't tell. I don't know where the appropriate place to have this discussion would be. I'm just going to put this here. CAA. Let me go over here actually. Has this been implemented in the HTTP module? Or is that still vulnerable and CAA checks must be done in a side channel? There we go. Let's put it that way. Okay, cool. So maybe we'll get a hit back on that. I don't see, where's the, I don't know where the PR, where's the related PR for this? Closed. I don't know where the PR is. This is back in version 8. Wow. I mean, that's good. That's good that we were talking about it that early. That's probably about the right time. That's when, let's see, version 10 was when we finally had full support. Version 10.12 is when finally we had all the cryptography in Node that we needed to do all the things that we need to be able to do. Okay, let's see. What else am I saying here? So security. Okay. I would propose my primary concern with the implementation, with the current PR, is that it could only ever support 0 SSL. Is that it does not use the RFC, what was it, 3999? Is that what it is? No, that's time spec. Was it 5555? It had some really easy to remember number with a bunch of repeating digits in it. RFC Acme 8555. You can remember this because port 80 is for HTTP and then a bunch of fives. That's the mnemonic that I should use. Okay, so RFC 8555 does not use Acme, but relies on the proprietary 0 SSL API, which cannot be adapted to other providers like the official spec. But okay, so here's the question. I don't think that DAPI was actually defined in any of this. So I think it needs to be more clear what DAPI is supposed to be, because I don't actually see that explicitly stated. It's just kind of assumed. So do we have any here? DAPI services? Maybe this? What does this mean? Oh no. Monorepo hell. Brah! There's just so many things I don't know. Do people have a practical reason for why they do them? Or do they just do them because they're trendy? Monorepos being one of those things. A monorepo for Google maybe makes sense. I don't know if it really does or not, but most people use submodules. Submodules, you get all the benefits of the monorepo, and you get all the benefits of the having individual repos if you do get submodules, because all of your git tags will appropriately tag the version of the module that things actually live in. They'll all have their appropriate namespaced URLs, etc., etc. With the mono repo, then you especially if you're using GitHub, which for example Google doesn't. Google has their own thing. Then it's not that big of a deal. Well, not that big of a deal. But if you're using GitHub, then it is a problem to use monorepos, because then all of your issues get conflated, your Git tags get conflated, your npm publish becomes complicated. Then you need a tool to abstract your npm publish so that you can publish things at different versions than what the Git tags are. Just it breaks a lot of stuff, especially in the Node ecosystem, if you want to try to use a Node, a mono repo. This is good. Node 10.13 has all of the necessary bug fixes and security enhancements for this type of thing, as far as I'm aware. I think there might be another couple in Node v12, or maybe it's just because I got a 12 in my head, because I know it's specifically 10.12 is when yeah, if you want to use Greenlock, for example, there's a warning will print out unless you're using higher than 10.12, because of it's just a bunch of stuff that either was broken, and because nobody else was using it, right? Before implementing Let's Encrypt in Node, the cryptography stuff in Node was really redundant, because most people would say, oh, well, don't use Node for cryptography, use something else that's more performant, that's intended for that, whatever. Yeah, anyway. DAPI, so this says making basic requests. This is not clear. Implement these commands. List available RPC commands, various arguments can be found here. All right, this is going to be good. I'm going to bookmark this because that's going to come in handy. So I just hit Command D. Oh no, my keycaster. My keycaster's not been up. I totally forgot about that. There we go. Now you can see when I hit different. There we go. Okay. Yeah, if this is what DAPI is, which I'm assuming it must have moved beyond this, because this is not very interesting. But yeah, I can't think of any reason that you'd want this to be RPC in terms of exposing it to the web. I can understand that underneath the original tooling was built around RPC. But if you're building a new abstraction layer, don't include the baggage of, almost all software is designed by people who don't know what they're doing, right? Most people who create a solution to a problem learn programming as a means to create a solution to the problem. They don't go, I don't know how to say that, but what I'm talking about. You can't have the expectation that people did things on purpose, because when you're first solving a problem, the reason you're solving it is because it hasn't been solved, which means that you don't understand the parameters of the problem, which means that when you create your solution, you're going to make a lot of headway in the first 20% of your work, and then in the last 80% of your work, there's going to be a lot of duct tape to fix things that you did wrong, unless you go back and fix them, which you probably won't, because you're not at the finish line yet. You don't have the solution to the problem, and so it doesn't make sense to refactor it yet. Yada yada yada. So don't bring that baggage forward with this thing, especially when so little has been done so far. There's no need, RPC because RPC. That there's no need to create more. You don't need to make it complicated. Just keep it simple. My primary concern with DAPI as a whole is that it concerns as a whole are that it isn't well defined. Are that, let's do this, isn't well defined. So let's take a look at, let's go back to here. Whoops, let's go to this one. Back one more. That's as far as we go. It's carrying over the RPC baggage of the original C code rather than bridging it to standard HTTPS REST. That web developers will be most accustomed to and which is easier to document and understand. Okay. Let's see. Proposal. Either use Caddy, simple, low effort, or Greenlock, custom, portable. Let's see. There we go. I think I moved this over to GitHub, did I not? Yeah. I need to update all the links and everything. Well, oh, not what I meant to do. I do that at least, what, 10 times per session? And to those of you joining in, hello, how's it going? I am actually finishing up here. I'm just writing the document based on my review of this spec, which, by the way, I think I can post this spec for anybody to look at. Should have done that much earlier. HTTPS, let's call it TLS for DAPI -API spec. Okay. What's up?
Would you like for breakfast now?
Yes, thank you. I am online. No, just give me a minute. I'm wrapping up. I'm just writing some documentation. I'll be done. All right. Okay. Okay, let's see here. Let's call this concerns. Yeah, let's just bring it on over here. Hopefully this is what was wanted. Whoops. Um, um, so obviously, free domains are less centralized, but no more, well, less centralized than IP addresses, even if you go with duckdns.org. Now there, you don't get the security of the CAA stuff. Um, create service to buy domains with dash. I think this actually, honestly, I think this should come first. I think there's just so much existing internet infrastructure and building services around that. I think one of the big problems with Web3 is rather than using the good internet infrastructure, the stuff that is decentralized, the stuff that is secure, and improving upon it, uh, throwing everything away and trying to re-implement everything from scratch. The main problem with it is that it's not user friendly, because you have to be creating a browser, right? You have to create all these web protocols, you have to create all these RPC things, you have to, you're creating a lot of stuff that no one uses or cares about and that isn't proven. And you have to have your own browser, which with Brave you do get some, Web 3-ish support, but it's actually kind of a lie.
But there's no sense crying over every mistake. You just keep on trying till you run out of cake.
That was what I meant to say was the cake is a lie, but then I hit the wrong. Well, I hit the right button, but it didn't say the right thing. Unless you know the reference already. Anyway, so I think that that's problematic. Just we need to take, because the web was built to be decentralized. It was intentionally designed on purpose to be decentralized. So to throw that away and try to re-implement systems on top of IP that is not decentralized. Well, it is kind of sort of, but not as much as domain names are, right? Not as much as as you go through the layers, you want to tend towards the things that are the most decentralized. And decentralized in this sense really just means easy to switch between providers that you trust. The IP address that you get at your house, if you stop trusting Xfinity or what's the other one? Roadrunner. I don't know what all the network names are. Comcast is Xfinity. What's the other one? The CenturyLink. If you Starlink, that's not the Elon Musk one. If you stop trusting your internet service provider, you can't change IP addresses, right? If you stop trusting Amazon, you you know you just you want to build in such a way that if the trust is broken, that you can switch, because you cannot have trustless computing. That's a myth. You know, when you go all the way down to the hardware layer, you're just basically saying, well, I trust the state actors that are modifying the firmware, right? Which I don't know that you want. So trustless computing is a myth. trusted computing is really the only way to go. You have to have some level of trust. You have to believe that you're joining into it. Even when you're looking at something like Bitcoin, you say, oh, well, it's trustless. No, it's not. You're trusting that most of the network, most of the nodes on the network are acting in good faith, which is a pretty darn good assumption, right? You're trusting that over 50% of the nodes act in good faith. Because if more than 50% of the nodes are acting in bad faith, then the system completely collapses, right? The system only works because you trust that of the disinterested parties that have that their only mutual interest is in preserving the ledger, that more than 50% of them will do that job according to the way that you expect, right? And then the same thing would be true for actually, I don't remember what I was going to say there. Anyway, let me just wrap this up. So this is my proposal. These are my concerns. This is my proposal. I don't know what else to do about it here. Suggested free domains. Let's see. For TLS, either used blah, 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 blah. Okay, yep. Okay, well, thanks for joining in. If you, oh, whoops, sorry, there was a couple of messages there I didn't see. Did you see these two for what is DAPI question? Let me check on that. Let's see, in the live streams channel here. I think we just, no, I didn't see that. Okay. Why is this not being built from, crap. Okay, thanks for that. This stuff needs to get in with the code. The documentation and the code should not live so far apart. Get this into the code, generate this from the repository that is, do a git submodule. If this, which I don't think that there should be one documentation page that should cover everything. One, because it really muddies the waters in terms of being able to understand the specific thing that you're trying to look at, right? There's just too many things going on here. It should be split up into dissimilar names that you can easily search and find. But anyway, okay. Nodes and blah, 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 peer-to-peer protocols. But so I think you're misunderstanding what peer-to-peer means. Tablecom dash decentralized API uses robust mass service node infrastructure to provide an API for accessing the network. Layer 2 platform functionality, so all developers can interact with via a single interface. I don't think that they're using the word peer-to-peer or decentralized appropriately here. Sorry, what? No, there's no need for sorry. Thank you. I'm glad that you brought this to my attention. Yeah, still, it's not, I don't know. What is this doing that we don't already have? Is this just trying to say it's going to integrate insights into gRPC, which, why, I don't know why you, Anyway, subscribe to, okay, that seems maybe good. Yeah, I don't know why you'd want to build a layer 2 gRPC though. That just doesn't, or no, this is all layer 1. So we have no layer 2. We have some layer 2. Don't, whatever. Gosh. Anyway, I'm out, y'all. Thanks for joining in. Like if you liked it. Thank you very much, Duncan, for providing this link. This is not, it's still not clear to me what kind of goals. There's so much that's going on here and so many things that are going on at the same time. It's a little bit rough to keep track of. But yeah, again, I'm gonna go. Thanks for joining in. Like if you liked, follow, sub, whatever. If you want to check the description for related and unrelated links. And I gotta. It's been so long since I've done this. I don't remember what my spiel is. I don't even have a good solid spiel, but I do remember, even though it's been about 2 weeks, I do remember that at the end, I give the old adios.